Alright, the stage is set for the Blast London finals to begin on Friday. Our 6 teams have been decided. None of that matters because M80 are here to single-handedly save North American Counter-Strike. Molodoy might not just be the best rookie on planet Earth, but probably the best opper walking the planet right now. And honestly, for the first time in a long time, it feels like this tournament is legitimately up for grabs. I don't think there is a firm favorite to win anywhere you look, which means the playoffs are going to be nothing if not exciting. So let's set the stage, talk about how these 6 teams made it, talk about some of the teams who notably missed, and get ready for the action to begin on Friday. If you guys enjoy this kind of recap coverage, you can show me by leaving a like, leave a comment down below, subscribe to the channel already, help me 10k subs by the end of the year. Also, follow me on twitch.tv/LionHeartZ2, help me get to 1,000 followers soon. Without any further ado, let's thank today's sponsor. This video is sponsored by SkinsMonkey, a CS2 trading website. You put in the skins that you want to trade, you select what you want, you use my code LionHeartZ for up to $5 off, or click the top link in the description, and boom, new drip.
Nice.
You can also use my code for a 35% deposit bonus if you want to buy with real money. And they have a free section with cool giveaways. So check the top link in the description, use my code to buy 15 Dragon Lores to let them know I sent you their way, and thank you to SkinsMonkey for sponsoring this video. Now, right at the top, you guys are probably hearing a fan in my background. It is, again, the hottest part of the year for me. It is sweltering in my office. I'm sweating for the sake of your entertainment, so I apologize for the slightly lower audio quality. We'll get through it together, and hopefully global warming doesn't catch up to me any more than it already has. Anyways, let's talk about our first team to make it out of the group stage, and that's M80. Yesterday, I did a video talking specifically about them dumpstering Na'Vi. We also touched on it in the previous video before that, about them dumpstering VP so hard their roster blew up, but M80 have been on kind of a fucking run at Blast London. And again, regardless of whatever issues I may have with the fact that this group stage was online, holy shit, M80 had to run the gauntlet to make playoffs. They nearly beat Vitality, beat them on the first map Overpass, and were relatively competitive on the second 2 after that. So you nearly beat one of the best teams in the world, the current era-defining team, and one of the best rosters of all time. That's already really, really good because everybody expected MA just to get dumpstered in that matchup. You drop down to the lower bracket, you cuck VP, you destroy Na'Vi, and then you beat Fnatic today. That's insanely legit. And honestly, the best part about this has been the fact that Lake has led the way as by far and away M80's best player. Typically when M80 play in international competition, Lake is one of the players who takes the biggest hit. He has not been able to transfer his greatness against domestic competition across the waters whenever M80 do go over. And while I'm still very worried about what he'll do in a playoff environment on stage, at least so far, this is probably his best international showing since he joined M80, and they need every bit of it. Alongside him and HexT, shout out to everybody who hates that I pronounce it that way, because that's the only way I'm going to do it from now on, but him and HexT were just defining in many of these games in terms of high impact clutches, great openings, high volume of kills. M80 were reliant on these two to break the door open in many instances. And overall, the team just has a good vibe. They got that scrappy, loose, not well organized style that so well defines NA as a region. All the clips that they get posted on Twitter of them singing in Spawn, celebrating, having a great time, all of that just makes you want to be endeared and get behind them and see them succeed. Yes, are they by far the weakest team to make it into the playoffs? That's obviously the case. Do they have a snowball's chance in hell in their quarterfinal matchup? Probably not. But as long as they can show up on Friday and just look remotely competitive in their quarterfinal matchup, that'll be a win. This is already a massive W for them in terms of their presence in World Counter-Strike, and it's a massive growing moment for their young stars. I don't know how you can not call this a success if you're M80. This is a wonderful result, and they're leading the charge of America in an uncertain period when we really need a team to kind of show out and be a pinnacle of hope. And come on guys, there's nothing more American than an NA team needing the help of a couple of Germans to help make things work. That's a terrible joke and I stand by it, fuck you. Anyways, we're gonna kind of skim past what else M80 did. If you want a more detailed breakdown on some of the strats and how they got here, look at yesterday's video about the Na'Vi game, I go pretty in depth there. Alright, now I know this is going to be difficult, but try and leave a comment down below of when you think I started recording in the next morning. It might be hard to spot it, but I think if you listen closely, you can hear the difference. Regardless, glory to M80 aside, let's talk about one of our next teams to make it through, and that's Vitality. Vitality make it through the upper bracket. They get to the semifinals by beating Faze yesterday, but by no means was it clean or straightforward, especially by their standards. Every series Vitality played here went to 3 maps, and against M80 and especially Faze, there's a very fair argument to say that Vitality should have dropped a series here. Of course, if you follow the channel, as London was getting started, I made a video kind of deep diving some of the issues that Vitality were facing, especially in relation to their T-sides. And looking deeper at the statistics here, one thing you're going to note right away is that Zyro, who was one of their worst T-side performers since their slump began, has had a massive bounce back. He's playing much better overall as a player at this tournament so far, and his T-sides took a massive leap forward. He's by far their best T-side player at London with a 1.42 rating. But bizarrely, Zyro has had an awful time on the CT sides, which has left Vitality very vulnerable. Zyro's currently averaging below a 1.0 rating and looking noticeably shakier on the CT side, which is utterly bizarre because he typically never struggles at this aspect of the game. I don't know what to make of it. It's definitely a small sample size, but at least right now in London, Vitality aren't having a T-side problem, they're having a CT side one. Again, looking a little deeper at the results, they opened up the event by dropping a map to M80 on Overpass. Again, this is an online group stage. This is the first map. You're just coming off the EWC. I feel like you can just give Vitality the pass for that. They did get run over by M80's T-side, which is a little bit concerning, but they bounced back to win the series. The final map on Inferno was actually relatively close. M80 had a chance to possibly hand Vitality an L, but when it came down to winning and securing those final rounds, Vitality, they played very efficient on their T-side of Inferno, exactly what you would expect from them considering the pedigree of team they've been so far this year. The Gamer Legion series, despite being a 3-map affair, was really a tale of blowouts, with Vitality winning Train 13-9, Gamer Legion just dusting Vitality 13-7 on Inferno. Again, their CT side only getting one single round against Gamer Legion, very concerning, but Vitality looked very strong on Nuke to close with a 13-4 victory of their own. Probably the most entertaining game of this group stage is the semi-final qualifier game against Faze. Now it's the least consequential as it's not an elimination set, it's just deciding whether you go to the semis or the quarterfinals, but this was double overtime on the first two maps, Mirage and Nuke, and I think there's a fair argument that Faze should have just won this series outright. It came down to just very small interactions on both of these two maps, where Vitality could just squeak out the most important round wins off the back of great timely heroics. And I want to save a lot of my praise for Faze for when we get to them later on in the video, but you had Brokey and Frozen just roundly beat Zyro and Robs in the head-to-head, and that's very concerning heading into the playoffs. But again, to be very charitable, online group stage, it's just not the same as playing in an arena. Vitality are one of the best arena teams we have. I don't know. Looking ahead at what we have going on this weekend, they have MOUZ and M80 in the quarterfinals. Vitality are definitely capable of beating both of those teams, but MOUZ most recently have been beating them. So if MOUZ beat M80, which is pretty likely, let's just call it what it is, then Vitality don't have a free path into the finals whatsoever. Can they beat MOUZ? Abso-fucking-lutely. But the way they've been playing lately, I think this is going to be a close-knit affair. It's just so weird to be talking about a team that was so dominant just a month and a half ago and be so unsure of what they're going to bring into the server game to game. It's just bizarre. Anyways, let's switch gears and talk about Faze, because oh my god, have you motherfuckers been asking me all goddamn week what I think about Faze Clan. It's just the timing never lined up for me to do a dedicated video about it. Whether it was VP breaking news, having to cover M80 saving North America, there just wasn't really time for me to do a dedicated Faze piece. Obviously, this is the debut of Jacob in the lineup with LBKcs out, and honestly, it's hard to really question the results here. Faze make it to the playoffs, something that isn't by any means guaranteed with their recent runs of form. You have Brokey and Frozen walking away as some of the best players in the entire fucking event, and overall, the vibes certainly look better. I think Jacob is like at best a lateral move, but it wasn't terrible, and considering my opinion of Faze going into this event was a doomer at best, I really think that's something to be commended. Obviously, Faze have been a team that have always been defined by their ability to run off vibes. I fully acknowledge that. I'm just very biased for LBKcs. I think LBKcs is a wonderful player. He's one of my favorite players in the game. So I think that vibes be damned, you make a player like that work. But I fully accept that Kerrigan is a savant at this shit, and making rookies fit his system is what he's done throughout his entire career. Now, things got off to kind of a slow start. Faze dropped their opening map against Ecstatic on Overpass 13-10, but Faze roared back with a 13-0 victory on Dust 2 with Frozen fucking smurfing on them And then Brokey was just insane on Inferno, despite that game having to go into overtime before FaZe could get the win out 16-13. Jacob got off to just a bad start with FaZe, I would say, but again, he only had about 10 matches played with the team at this point. In practice, he'd only been there for a very short amount of time. He was playing maps that he had been permabanning previously in Inferno. I give Jacob full pass here. It's his literal first fucking match with the team. I'm not expecting him to be donk out the gate. The real, oh shit, this might work moment was definitely this series against Na'Vi. Na'Vi is a team that have given FaZe some trouble in the past, has by no means been a free series. So for FaZe to walk out and just beat Na'Vi straight up 2-0, Brokey looking absolutely fantastic along the way, Jacob looking much better in the second time around, this was the moment where everyone, I think, took a collective step back and were like, okay, wait a minute, we might be cooking here. Because if Brokey and Frozen are just going to play like the best versions of themselves, then yeah, FaZe get significantly better. I feel like that shouldn't be that big of a surprise. But holy shit, dude. Brokey had that highlight on Mirage. We all know what I'm talking about here. He gets past Alexi B in jungle and then just hits all 3 op shots in an impossible 1v3 clutch. Brokey hits this clutch and, you know, I just start tweeting out in all caps. I'm like, he's fucking back. We're so back. I've forgotten about Elige, my muse, for the moment. I feel joy once again in my cold, decrepit heart. I have been one of Brokey's biggest fucking critics, but that comes from a place of love, of missing peak Brokey and hating when he is missing shots. So when he does shit like this, it's like watching your favorite player in the NBA just fucking yam on somebody, just bury him in the basket. I'm sitting there on fucking courtside watching Brokey do this shit going, hey! Now, of course, it would have been the cherry on top if FaZe could have beaten Vitality, but it's just very clear upon retrospect how much this game was really just decided by how close the first 2 maps are. FaZe played from behind pretty much every step of the way on Mirage, but somehow squeaked out a victory in the second overtime, 19-17, and then we pretty much ran back the same exact script on Nuke. Except it was FaZe who had multiple match points both in regulation and the first overtime, but failed to convert them with gritty late round wins by Vitality. And with so much invested in these first 2 maps, I think it was pretty clear that the third map, Inferno, was going to be a bit one-sided, with Vitality pulling away with a 13-5 victory. So FaZe, they were right there. A fair argument could be made that they should have 2-0'd this series, but regardless, they're in the playoffs. I have a lot of concerns about Brokey and Frozen maintaining this output in a playoff environment. Jacob is a huge question mark, but overall, it's hard to not be positive about how FaZe played so far, because when they needed to, they looked damn successful. Unfortunately, being a FaZe Clan addict is a perpetual cycle of oscillating between it's so over and we are so back. We are indeed currently in we are so back territory, but the question is, how long will that last? Anyways, let's shift our focus over to Group B, and let's start off first by talking about FURIA, because honestly, with the revelation that Spirit are not going to be in the playoffs, I'm just going to stand 10 toes on this. I think FURIA are the favorites to win the entire goddamn event. They are the team that I think is by far the most entertaining, but also the team that played consistently the best. They were the second highest overall rated team behind G2, they had the third best player in the event in Zerotwocs, and by far the best opera at the event in my opinion. In the 100% approved, sealed, stamped shut, case closed Rookie of the Year in Molodoy. I've gone out on a limb already and said Molodoy might be a top 5 opera in the world, but honestly, with Zyro slumping, Mulancy not really playing to his best, and him already being about as good as Shiro, I'm willing to open up the dialogue that Molodoy could be considered a top 3 or even the best op in the world at any given moment. And the thing that would cap off that hot take of hot takes and really let me seal it shut would be for FURIA to win this event. Anyways, spinning it back to the results, we opened up with FURIA having a 3-game set against Legacy. FURIA had a dominant 14-7 start on Inferno, but dropped the Nuke game pretty decisively 13-6, but closed out the series very strongly on Mirage 13-5. Legacy, they're just kind of one of those teams where if they get the momentum, they're going to run away with it. I don't think it's surprising that FURIA's only map loss were the 2 worst individual performances from Molodoy and Yakindar. That's just going to happen. Once again, they stepped back up and answered on Mirage to keep the series win intact. What's legitimately insane is that FURIA goes straight through to the semis by beating the #1 team in the world in Team Spirit and then the #4 team in the world in MOUZ, both in 2-0 series where they were definitively playing the better Counter-Strike than their opponents. In the first series against Spirit, we opened up on Mirage with Donk and Molodoy literally going blow for blow. The only difference is that Molodoy is getting his impact while dying nearly half as many times as Donk did. So Donk's impact, while it was still gigantic and Donk-like, it was overall muted by the fact that the support cast behind him at this event was just not as great. More on that in just a minute. But Molodoy would equalize or oftentimes cancel out what Donk was doing almost single-handedly. And the thing that's making FURIA so hard to deal with is you have this explosive opening combo of Molodoy and Yakindar doing all of this great work, and then CARALHO just slotting right into what we want him to be, one of the best round finishers in World Counter-Strike. Look no further than on Nuke. You have CARALHO top fragging, getting pretty much the same numbers as Donk, but the big thing is he beat Donk in round swing percentage, which is a stat that Donk notoriously dominates with his ability to just take multi-kills that win rounds outright. So you have FURIA matching the output in the fragging, they're outmatching Spirit in the round swing percentage, and they're all doing it while playing an incredibly fun, frenetic, loose style, with Fallen oftentimes out-calling every IGL he comes up against right now. And then switching gears to this semi-final placement game against MOUZ, the first place I gotta start is this fucking clutch on Inferno from Molodoy. I saw this shit, and that's when I just had to go over to Twitter, and I just said it with my full chest. I don't fucking care what Kyosuke does. Kyosuke could win every fucking tournament, win the major, whatever. Molodoy is Rookie of the Year, and I insist. I think Molodoy might be the best hopper in the world right now. I think the case can be made, and I just, fuck, dude. This is just not only a good clutch, it's an insane clutch. It is something that would be on the short list for like clutch of the year. Like, there's no time left, and he just disassembles MOUZ, who they may have their own issues for sure, but MOUZ have never been a bad CT side team, and Molodoy just fucking eviscerates them. FURIA run away with a dominant 13-7 win on Inferno off the back of that. Mirage, they went up 9-3 on the first half, before MOUZ, once again on their CT side, authored a very good comeback into overtime, but it, oh my god, okay, leaving that in, it just wasn't enough. FURIA win in overtime 16-14. Looking ahead into the playoffs, considering the side of the bracket the FURIA are on, I really do think making the finals is the bare minimum. You have FaZe or G2, those are beatable teams. FURIA need to make the grand finals here, or this is a fuck up. That's the point that we're at. Like, they are a legit top 5 team in the world. It's time for FURIA to win what will be, unfortunately, one of the very few trophies that CARALHO has in his cabinet collection. Alright, we're going to speed things up because I have a lot less to say about our remaining 2 teams. First off, MOUZ. They're also through to the playoffs. Is anyone really surprised? MOUZ, they're still really good in the group stages. The question is, will MOUZ finally just make one clean playoff run where they don't make a whole lot of mistakes, they power through, they win it all? They can definitely do it here. They would have to beat Vitality in the semifinals. They've already done that once so far this year, so I do think that that's very much possible for them to recreate. They get by far the easiest quarterfinal matchup in M80, and M80, while I still do believe in them and they can absolutely upset MOUZ, it's fair to say that it's a lopsided matchup on paper. But circling back a little bit, MOUZ, they beat Imperial 2-1. They dropped their very first match on Overpass. First match of the event, online qualifier, not going to hold that against them. They beat G2 very, very convincingly after that, 2-0, and then got kind of just bitched out of the server by FURIA, as already mentioned. But overall, it's MOUZ. This is a team that, I'm just going to be honest with you, I don't find very entertaining to watch outside of Xerxes and Torji, so I'm just like not surprised. Doesn't really move the needle for me. I still am not a big fan of their T sides. It's MOUZ. They are the most known quantity team we have right now. And then pulling up the rear, the Vanguard, the last team to make it into the playoffs, upsetting Team Spirit, the best team in the world yesterday, are G2. And listen, all I'm gonna say is that I am immediately validated in every single respect that Snax is a fucking fraud and that he was the problem. To all of the people who take their time to hate on Pimp, listen, you're wasting your time. Pimp will still try and justify that Snax can be a good end-game leader. I will do no such thing. Snax is a dog shit end-game leader. He should have never been on the G2 team in the first place, and the only success that G2 got with him was in spite of him, not because of him. So if you hate Pimp for hating on Snax, you should actually just hate on me, because I will argue with you on Twitter, and I will call you a dumbass, and I will not hesitate to do so. So fuck the Snax fans, fuck the guys harassing Pimp, and long live Hunter on G2, because he's literally 50 times the in-game leader that Snax ever was at any point, and he's doing it with lesser talent than Snax did. Fuck you, Snax fans. Except for Snax Enjoyer, our loyal channel member, Twitch subscriber, and the one lone Snax fan who is not mentally ill. Anyways, G2, they dumpstered Liquid in their opening game, they dropped to MOUZ in the upper semifinals, and then made out the lower bracket taking care of FlyQuest, and then of course the big result was beating Spirit in 3 games. Liquid and FlyQuest, those are teams that I think G2 should be beating. They took care of that pretty neatly. They got kind of pounded out by MOUZ, but again, MOUZ are one of the best teams in the world. I don't think that is that unreasonable. The big thing to note is that Sunpius, by far having his best event since joining G2, he has looked noticeably better. Not quite his peaks of what we could see on Heroic, but just noticeably better in terms of impact, and not as much of a lead fucking weight, which is just a 9-day difference for this team. And really, the consistency the whole way down for G2 is worth noting. You had every single player above a 1.1 rating as they exit the group stage, even Hunter. So the spread of firepower on G2 is quite commendable, and it's leading to a lot of situations where they can get clutch moments out of damn near everybody. Hunter is calling very, very good, well thought out T-sides to best utilize those pieces, and with MOUZ looking way better on his T-side entries and better on his CT side holds, Heavy God being a consistent rock with a rifle in his hands, you have Hunter and Maddie's just being these X-Factor pieces. This G2 team is fun, it's scrappy, and it has a lot of room to grow. And again, surviving Spirit in this final series is so commendable, because they dropped a very close Mirage opener 13-11, but on Dust 2, they managed to blank Spirit's T-side to an extreme amount to start. They kept Donk fully under wraps. But, as we all know, Donk doesn't stay quiet for an entire game, it just doesn't happen, so they managed to weather this insane Donk comeback on the second half, where Donk was just going monster mode, Chopper was also popping off, but they exploited the few mistakes left open to them. One of the things that's kind of hard for me to cover in such detail in a bigger video like this, but Spirit made a lot of mistakes down the stretch of this Dust 2 game, a bunch of missed nades, missed timings, miscommunications, and that gave just enough room for G2 to eke out the 2 rounds they needed to force overtime, and then in said overtime, they were dominant. They won 4 of 5 rounds on the way to their victory. They completely blanked Spirit after conceding the entire comeback, which is super commendable. Heavy God looking fantastic. MOUZ doing really well in the Donk head-to-head, and Sunpius keeping up with Shiro in a very adequate matchup. And it was clear by how tilted that Donk was that Spirit were ready to check out, which is what they did. G2 just rolled them over on Ancient. They were sending MOUZ out mid on the T side like a fucking missile, and he was torturing Team Spirit on it routinely. Now again, to be fair and consistent, online qualifier, Spirit aren't even playing with the lineup they expected to coming into London, so there's a lot of reasons for Spirit to be kind of checked out of this game. It's just not as serious as other games they've played this year. If this was in an arena or in a LAN environment, group stage, whatever, I do think Spirit would have just thumped them. I think that's absolutely fair to say. But at the end of the day, you can only play the game in front of you, and G2 rocked up when they needed to in the last game they could possibly play, tournament on the line, and they beat Spirit emphatically to make their playoff spot. So that is 100% commendable and insane success for this roster, and shows the potential of the Hunter IGL era in full view. And as much as I am on the full belief that FURIA are gonna beat them if they beat Faze, there is a world where G2 can make this finals. It's not like they have to play Vitality, MOUZ, or Spirit in a playoff environment. They have to play Faze, totally winnable matchup, and FURIA, who are not proven in this playoff environment to the same degree. So those are 2 actually feasible games. G2 could make a grand finals right now. That's on the cards. Anyways, let's give a brief moratorium for Spirit here. #1 team in the world, they exited the group stage. I'm just going to be honest, I don't think this is that big of a deal. I've said this before in the video. I just don't think it is. There is an Overdrive quote floating around that came out late last night where he said that the team wasn't really motivated because of the visa issues. Now, people are kind of extrapolating that the wrong way. Whereas I think this is very clearly in reference to Tanir specifically and nobody else, because the original leaks, the original rumors were Tanir steps in for London. So if Tanir couldn't get his visa in time and they had to play with Zontic's last minute, yeah, that throws off a lot of their prep. They were trying to bring in a new player last minute. They thought that Zontic's send-off was going to be at the EWC. That's going to fuck with the prep. That's going to fuck with the vibes. And I think very noticeably the team looked more disjointed than they would have otherwise. Combine that again with the online environment that's already not ideal compared to a LAN group stage, and yeah, I think that's a lot of reasons to accept that if you're Spirit, you just shrug this off and move on to the next event. It's just really not that big a deal. But for the rest of us, what this means is, as I said at the beginning of this video, this is the most open possible playoff bracket we've had all year long. Anybody can win this. Anybody. I truly believe that. So let's see how it plays out this weekend. So if you guys enjoy this kind of coverage, you can show me by leaving a like, leave a comment down below, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Help me to take case studies by the end of the year. Also, thank you to SkinsMonkey for sponsoring this video. Check the top link, sure you go try on their website. Use my code, let them know I sent you their way. Thank you to SkinsMonkey. Thank you to my channel members, JesseTiv, Milan Berta, Bubblesj, Dr. Cocktor, Patatas Kaftesi, BTR, B1 Games, Cody Foxworthy, JesseTiv, I'm Flashbang, Snowy White, Rowdy, LBKcs, Snax Enjoyer, Zerotwocs, drudenae, chron, Gano, Zyro, and Devvrat Singh. If you want to become a channel member, you can do so. You should double 5 bucks. Discord. All right, follow me on twitch.tv/LionHeartZ CS2. Bye.